We're going to go back to two steps behind, and we can go back to the topic that we were doing, which is gradient of a line. When it comes to this, we can now look at the exam questions, and when it comes to the exam questions, the gradient of a line, we can go to this, and this is where you get the exam questions. The person from Maths Genie itself has stated do not write on the sheets. That's something that I recommend. What I would recommend when it comes to these exam questions is to print it out. Unless he stated in the notebook, in the exam style questions, that you must write on the sheet, not, or you must not write on the sheet, then follow what the advice is given. Take the use of it. Where you're going to, you could pretty much solve this question here since we're just using a formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that's pretty much easy to do on the paper. If you want to, it's up to you. But it's, look, one more question. It's grade 5. This says 5.15. There should be some meaning behind that. But it's suggesting, I think, the specification. But the good questions are here, and then you got 2 more questions as well. Do all these questions, and the important part about this is how you make use out of this. And this is where the video where I've done how to use exam papers to get grade 9 in GCSE Maths comes very well into play. Do check that video out, because it will teach you guys how to particularly use exam papers to get a grade 9 in GCSE Maths, and specifically use that to get a grade 9 in GCSE Maths to a large extent. The exam questions are there for you. It's not as if you have to find exam papers. It's not like you have to go through websites to find all these stuff. The information is there for you. These teachers have literally made life a lot easier for you. There's all the resources there is available for free as well at the same time for students to access. But at the end of the day, it's how you use these, and that's why I'm doing a particular video on how to use Maths Genie, because as I mentioned at the start of the video, everyone has access to Maths Genie, everyone has the opportunity to get grade 9, but the difference is how you use Maths Genie. And that's why this video has been made, because I have received a grade 9 in GCSE Maths myself. I have 2 students that have got grade 9 in GCSE Maths as well, and I've already stated at the start of the video why you should trust me, why you should trust my advice, because a lot of students do recommend me teaching to others, and I'm now taking the opportunity to reach a larger audience and ensure that you guys get a grade 9 in GCSE Maths. Important thing from here, you got 1 more questions here, 2 more questions here, and 3 more questions over here as well. I would recommend you do all the questions. If you are able to just do, say, the first 4 questions here pretty easily, but there's only 6 questions, so you should be able to do these in 6 minutes, which is not a lot of your time. Then you got a few 2 mark questions over here, which is useful to get a grade 9 in GCSE Maths as well. When you got these 2 mark questions, a little bit more knowledge dependent, but there is some differences because you got some negative numbers involved, and at the same time it might be a little bit more difficult to do the calculations. You might get answers which are fractions. That's why it's a 2 mark question. And then over here, this is working backwards. Given the gradient, you have to do a little bit of rearranging, you have to do a little bit of changing the subject, and you will be able to get the answer for these 3 things, because we're working out what the coordinate is. So it's basically reversing the question, but it's a little bit more of application knowledge, because the grade 9 to 1 GCSE system has now changed from more simpler ways, just where you can just memorize a question on how to do it in a particular method, but now we're looking at applying your knowledge, and that's where the difference is between what your teachers were able to do in terms of their exams and what I was able to do in terms of my exams, because I was definitely in your position. I had to apply my knowledge, I had to suffer like you guys, and I exactly know what I'm doing. That's why people recommend me over the other students, over the other teachers, because I've been through what you guys have been through, and I've gone through pretty good tricks in using websites and using the best out of resources available. And when it comes to Maths Genie, this is another one which I recommend to a large extent as well. Going back to the websites, some do have exam questions. Most of them do have exam questions, some do not, such as you got drawing quadratic curves, graphs, but there's an exam questions booklet as well. This is where it may seem unnecessary, but if you go to the gradient of light exam questions booklet, this is very useful. You can do these questions at the end of the day. It's the same things as the ones that came up in the exam questions. I think these 2 are both exactly the same thing. If you go to exam questions, if you look at the final ones, okay, it's -2, -2, 4, 8, -2, -2, 4, 8. So if you go back here and go to the gradient of a line, so let's just go back to the last question. Is it -2, -2, 4, 8, -2, -2, 4, 8? If you want to do an exam booklet format, which will be a little bit more easier, since you'll be able to write on the piece of paper and you'll be able to get some practice as an exam question, as if you're doing an exam. You can print this out, which is very easy for you guys to do. Double-sided will be useful, so you don't have to waste some paper. But at the same time, if you're really keen on not wasting paper, then you do have the exam questions like this, where you can just literally do the questions in your book. You don't have to do it on an exam booklet, but depending on your guys' need, do you want to write on a piece of paper, or do you want to write on the actual booklets where you can print? It's up to you guys. Nowadays, you can now even write it on your iPad. You can download it to your iPad and as a PDF, and be able to use markup or some other software to write with your interactive pen. There's a lot of useful things, but this is a way I would recommend to use Maths Genie to get a grade 9 in GCSE Maths.